Yeah, it is.
It's
It is. Ah, okay. We have, and I know Joan did a little bit on this, but we have yesterday. We have really the pretty action-packed 4 chapters here of Samuel, and the lectionary, which we love, but has its difficulties, skips over most of the rest of the story, and so we're going to fill in a few of the gaps today, just because it's a good story, and it's not one that we get on Sunday. It's not one that we get even on the weekday. We go from chapter 4 today to chapter 8, and we skip the exciting 5, 6, and 7. So we're just gonna give a bit of that. This is from 1 Samuel, and the reading we get today is just 1 through 11, and so it's straightforward. Um, so they come back and end up in the promised land. And just the historical backdrop of this, they come back and they end up in the promised land. But the people who were in the promised land are still floating around there. And today it's the Philistines, who would have been on the eastern, is that west? No, the western part, Ashdod and these places that are closer to the sea over there on that side, over on the east side of current Israel. At that time, the Philistines gathered for an attack on Israel. Israel went out to engage them, while the Philistines camped at Eben. Yeah, they camped. The Philistine then drew up a battle formation. After a fierce struggle, Israel was defeated, who killed about 4,000 men. When the troops returned to camp, the elder, "Why does the Lord permit us to be defeated? Let us fetch the ark of the Lord from Shiloh, that it may go into battle among us and save us from the grasp of our enemies." Okay. One of my favorite movies growing up, 18-year-old, this great movie comes out from Steven Spielberg, whose parents were Orthodox Jews, was Raiders of the Lost Ark, or I don't know, what do they call it now? Indiana Jones 1 or something. Because I was talking to my niece about it, and she didn't know it by the title Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones 1 or something. And as I said, Steven Spielberg, steeped in the Old Testament, would have known it well, kind of pulls at the strings of historical credulity when he talks about the ark. He shows the picture of the ark going into battle and being invincible, right? Do we have that little picture? The ark going into battle and being invincible. And so if Hitler's armies get the ark, they're going to go into battle and be invincible. Of course, this in the Old Testament would be sheer nonsense. But anyway, it makes for a good story with Spielberg. It gives Hitler a reason to dig up the ark and kind of crazy stuff. But this is one reason why when we watch movies that are Hollywood and purport in some way to reflect Scripture, it's good to do some fact-checking before we just take them for granted that this is what it is. Spielberg, I think, kind of does this almost tongue-in-cheek. I mean, I don't think he's trying to tell us too much about this anyway, but he does a lot of connections back there. It's interesting, but not super accurate. All right, what was the other picture we have? Harrison Ford lifting out the Ark of the Covenant. But actually, the picture of the historical work on the Ark of the Covenant actually is quite good. It looks like what was described in the Bible. So, I mean, if you want an idea of how it looks. And actually, I saw online that you could buy a 1/4 miniature replica of it online from a place in England for 300, what do they use, pounds, 300 British pounds, which at least used to be like $600, but they were out of stock. So, so there is some desire for this. Okay, I better get going, otherwise we're not going to get through them. When the troops retired to the camp, let's go get the Ark of the Covenant, right? Ark of the Covenant makes us invincible in battle. Let's see how it goes in 1 Samuel chapter 4. So the people sent to Shiloh, brought the ark of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned upon the cherubim. The two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, accompanied the ark of God. When the ark of the Lord arrived in the camp, all Israel shouted so loudly that the earth shook. The Philistines, hearing the uproar, asked, "What does this loud shouting in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" On learning that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp, the Philistines were frightened, crying out, "Gods have come into the camp. Woe to us! This has never happened before. Woe to us! Who can deliver us from the power of these mighty gods?" These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with various plagues in the deserts. Take courage and act like soldiers, Philistine. Otherwise you will become slaves to the Hebrew. Fight like soldiers. The Philistines fought and Israel was defeated. Everyone fled to their own tents. It was a disastrous defeat. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were dead. This is a disastrous defeat. Of course, this is one of those things about being in the power of God. It does not guarantee that you will be a superpower. And it doesn't protect us from things going wrong. Now, this reading we don't get. And so the Philistines, having captured the ark of God, transferred it to Ashdod. That's one of those on the eastern coast. They then took the ark of God and brought it to the temple of Dagon, placing it beside Dagon. When the people of Ashdod, Dagon is the Philistine god. When the people of Ashdod rose early the next morning, Dagon was lying face down on the ground before the ark of the Lord, right? This is great, right? Their statue of their god is prostrate before the Lord, worshiping at the Ark of the Covenant, right? This gives us a great sign of what we ought to do. So the people, what do? They picked Dagon up and put him back in his place. But early the next morning when they arose, Dagon lay face down on the ground before the Ark of the Lord, his heads and hands broken off, but his trunk alone was intact. Maybe this is why we don't read this, but anyway, this is pretty good stuff. For this reason, neither the priest of Dagon nor any others who enter the temple of Dagon tread on the threshold of Dagon in Ashdod to this very day. We don't exactly, kind of nice to know when this very day was, but okay. Now, the hand of the Lord weighed heavily on the people of Ashdod, afflicting the city and its vicinity with tumors. Okay, the little footnote says that tumors were connected with the bubonic plague, and they would swell the lymph nodes, and so we might call them swollen glands or something like that, but afflicting them with tumors. On seeing how matters stood, the people of Ashdod decided the ark of God of Israel must not remain with us, for the hand of God weighs heavily on us and on Dagon our God. So the hand of God weighs heavily on Dagon. So they summoned all the Philistine leaders. What shall we do? They replied, let them move the ark of the God of Israel to us. So they moved the ark to a different town, Gath. But after it had been brought there, the hand of the Lord was against that city. Tumors broke out on them. Then it was sent to Ekron. The people cried out, so they had these three cities. Why? They brought the ark of God of Israel here to kill us and our kindred. Then they too sent summons and pleaded, send away the ark of God. Send it back to the place so it does not kill us and our kindred. A deadly panic had seized the whole city since the hand of God lay heavy upon it. Those who escaped death were afflicted with the tumors. Thus the outcry from the city went up to the heavens. What shall we do? The ark of the Lord had been in Philistine for 7 months. What shall we do? So they summoned priests and diviners to ask them, what shall we do? Tell us what we should send back with it. If you intend to send back the the God of Israel. You must not send it alone, but by all means must make amends to God through a reparation offering. And so, right, this is where we get to, I think, probably the point of the story. If we have offended God, we make reparation. Now, this is interesting in our thinking. This would be Old Testament, and in the Old Testament, what you were asked to do was offer something to God. And usually that was some sort of animal, signifying, though, that it was part of your household, like it was a sheep or turtle doves that would have been part of your household, would have been something significant to you. Make a reparation offering, then you will be healed and will learn why God afflicts you. What reparation offering should be our amends to God? So this is the bubonic plague part. This is super interesting. This is like the snake in the desert. 5 golden tumors and 5 golden mice. The things that are afflicting them, right? The bubonic plague. Let's send 5 golden tumors from the throat and 5 golden mice. This is sort of like an example of, the seraph serpent, where it's the serpent that's biting them, but they say raise the serpent up on a pole, and the cause of their difficulty becomes the cause of their healing. And so the cause of their difficulty, the mice and the tumors, will become the cause of their healing if they offer it back to God in gold. All right, we would not think like this today, but it's interesting, maybe. I kind of think it is. Oh, and the reason 5 was there were 5 Philistine leaders. So, and since the same plague has struck all of you and your leaders, and so they made the tumors and they made the mice, and why should you become stubborn the way the Egyptians and Pharaoh were stubborn? Wasn't that after you dealt ruthlessly with them that the Israelites were released and departed? And of course, this is recorded in this way to show, like, hey, the Philistines can figure out their way to get back to God. What's wrong with you, Israelites? Should you not, if you drift away, if you find yourself lost, you should be able to figure out a way to get back to God. So they went to work. They made a new cart. Okay, this is really why I read this story. I don't remember ever hearing this before. Then take 2 milk cows that have not borne the yoke. Hitch them to the cart, but drive their calves indoor away from them. You shall take the ark of the Lord and place it on the cart, putting the golden articles that you are offering as reparation for your guilt in a box beside it. Start it on its way and let it go, then watch. Okay, so in the footnotes it says that the idea is, if they don't have calves slowing them down and they're just free to roam, cows will go in the direction that God directs them. This is what we know about cows, right? They will go in the direction God directs them. Then watch. If it goes to Beth-Shemesh along the route of the Lord's territory, then it was the Lord who brought this great calamity on it. If not, we will know that it was not the Lord's hand, but a bad turn. How do we discern whether, we've offended God and God's beating us down, or it was just bad luck? This is an interesting thing. Release the cows. That's the answer to that one. They acted upon this advice. This is the great denouement of whatever that word is. They acted upon this advice. Taking 2 milk cows, they hitched them to the cart, but shut up their calves indoors, because they wouldn't slow them down, wouldn't direct them. They placed the ark of the Lord on the cart, along with the box containing the golden mice and the images of the tumors. The cows went straight for the route to Beth-Shemesh. Continue along, mooing as they went, turning neither left nor right.
What translation is this?
CNAB. This is straight out of our this is straight off of USCCB. and continued along their route, mooing as they went, turning neither right nor left. The Philistine leaders followed them as far as the borders of Beth-Shemesh. The people of Beth-Shemesh were harvesting the wheat in the valley. They looked up and rejoiced when they saw the ark. The cart came to the field of Joshua, the Beth-Shemite, and stopped there. In case you wanted to know what someone from Beth-Shemesh was called, that was a Beth-Shemite, and stopped there. At a large stone in the field, the wood of the cart was split up, and the cows were offered as burnt offering. Oh, sadness at the end of the story. But right, the cows are offered. They are, the offering of something close to us. The Levites, meanwhile, had taken down the ark of God and placed it with the golden articles, placed them on the great stone. The people of Beth-Shemesh also offered other burnt offering sacrifices to the Lord that day. We're coming back to the Lord with fullness. After witnessing this, the 5 Philistine leaders returned to Ekron that same day. The golden tumors the Philistines sent back as reparation offering to the Lord were as follows: one for Ashdod, Gaza, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The golden mice, however, correspond to the number of all the cities of the Philistine belonging to the 5 leaders, including fortified cities and open village. The large stone on which the ark of the Lord was placed is still in the field of Joshua, the Beth-Shemite, at this present time. Once again, it'd be great to know what that was. All right, and then they have some more trouble with the ark. It's they have trouble with that. But it seems like at this point the Philistines go off happily ever after. Well, not exactly, but anyway. I think it's clear. I don't know. That we would not take this mainly as an historical event. The main thrust of this is not to relay history to us, although it certainly could have happened in some way, shape, or form. But it really is this awe and reverence for the Ark of God, awe and reverence for the offering. And when we sin, the coming before the Lord. And of course, we have that with confession. We have that in the penance we are asked to do, not to make up for our sins, but to show that our lives are truly dedicated, once again, to living in the way of God. This is great stuff. I don't know. Like I said, you don't get this story very often. And the cows, this is, once again, domestic animals are offered, because we would like to shoot the wolves and offer them. But the offering is to mean something to us. And so this comes down, if our offering is money, sometimes that should actually cause us some difficulty when we give alms. It isn't all supposed to just be spare change. It should cause us in some way. And so this is why it's domesticated animals, right? These milk cows were perfectly good, but we offer them to the Lord as a sign of our great love for Him and that connection. It's strange stuff and a bit foreign to us, but when we think about it, the lesson is clear, and I think it's pretty clear on this one. Not always clear what the Bible's drilling at. And once again, many, many times in Scripture, non-Israelites are used to upbraid the Israelites, are used to encourage them. These people that you think are barbarians, these Philistines, these barbarians, can figure out how to serve the Lord. You, Israelites, who have the Word and the prophets and the Ark of the Covenant, ought to be able to do a little better than them. Of course, we see this in the book of Jonah. We see this in Naaman the Syrian. We see this all over the place where non-Israelites are used to encourage the Israelites to be in full operation in service of God. All right. That's just a whirlwind story there. Peace be with you. Great to have you with us. We do this morning meditation Tuesdays